founder and principal in a fourth-generation onion farming from the lower Hudson Valley in the black dirt muck soil. After leaving the farm to pursue a Master of Arts degree in Broadcasting and Film Studies from the University of Iowa, and a short stint in rural Wisconsin, Chris and his wife Eve moved back to New York State and the family farm in '93. Chris has been full-time farming since '96 and has been actively involved with public policy issues as well as presenting the farmer side of the story to the media. He has worked on issues on the local, state, and federal level ranging from crop insurance reform and disaster aid, labor, and immigration issues, as well as conservation and general farm bill issues, which is one of the things he's going to be speaking to us about in just a moment. Chris has appeared in hundreds of media stories in local, state, and national press. In 2010, he testified before the United States Senate Agriculture Committee on Farm Bill Oversight Hearing, maintaining our domestic food supply through a strong U.S. farm policy. So, without further ado, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Chris Pawelski.
You like some paper, so I'm going to use this. I'll talk real loud. My wife has been able to do that really well, so no complaints about that. Thank you, Peter. Thank you for the kind words. Greatly appreciate it. I'm going to try to do the farm bill in 15 minutes. Like Peter mentioned about my background, I'm a fourth-generation farmer from here, grew up here, left for a period of time. My degree is in broadcasting and film studies. My area of expertise is James Bond, which is kind of odd. But moved back to the farm with my wife, who's not from the area. We met at the University of Iowa. She's from Wisconsin. Started farming part-time in '94 and then full-time in '96. In '96, we got wiped out by hail. And ever since then, since '96, we've had a number of weather disasters, and I kind of got pulled in to doing public policy and media relations regarding agriculture. And I've been doing it since '96. Been going down to Capitol Hill since '98. And as Peter mentioned, worked on all aspects of farming. Talk a little bit about the Farm Bill first and what the benefits are for us, and then I'll mention a little bit more about the stuff I do. The Farm Bill is the overarching legislation that sets up the policies, both discretionary and non-discretionary spending policies involving agriculture and food and nutrition that's done every 5 years. And it sets it up so the parameters, so each following year when they do the appropriation bills, one of the areas that is the appropriations is agriculture. And the spending in the ag appropriations bills is set up, or the parameters are set up by the Farm Bill. Some of it's discretionary and some of it's non-discretionary. In the Farm Bill, there's a number of titles. I'll just read them to you quick. The titles are the areas that they cover, that they follow. They include commodity conservation, trade, nutrition, which is the biggest, which is like the SNAP program, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, which is about 70% of the Farm Bill spending. Nutrition, credit, rural development, research, extension, and related matters, forestry, energy, horticulture, crop insurance, and there's miscellaneous. And they put things in every so often regarding it. I actually testified, as Peter mentioned. The first hearing held in the Senate for the reauthorization of the Farm Bill was held in June of 2010, and I was one of the people that testified for that. In that hearing, there was the first panel was the Secretary of Agriculture, Secretary Vilsack. The second panel was the head of the two farming organizations, and the third panel was 4 farmers chosen from across the country, and I was one of the farmers. If you go, I have a blog called muckville.com. If you go to muckville.com, you can actually see, if you search under testimony, you can actually see I've uploaded my testimony on the video and the audio portions of it, and I kind of explain the backstory behind it. We're very fortunate now in New York State. We have 3 members in the House Ag. The authorizing committee is known as the Agriculture Committee is known as the committee that creates and structures the legislation regarding the Farm Bill and Ag policy. We're very fortunate now in New York. We have 3 members on the House Ag Committee. Congressman Maloney from our district, Congressman Gibson to the north of us, and Chris Collins in western New York. And we have 1 member on the Senate Ag Committee, which is Senator Gillibrand. I can tell you it makes a huge difference. When I started working on ag policy issues and fighting for changes of crop insurance or disasters, whatever, back in the 90s and through the 2000s, we had no members on the committee, and we had 2 members on the Ag Appropriations Subcommittee in the House. To get stuff into the Farm Bill or just get policies done, if you don't have a dog in the fight, it makes it extremely difficult. And having 4 members of the New York delegation on the committees is a huge difference. Now, just some things briefly that benefit us within it, that our members got into the Farm Bill. One is called the Crop Act, which was done both by Senator Gillibrand and Congressman Maloney. It it directs RMA, the Risk Management Agency, to come up with new policies to allow for the creation of new policies from outside organizations to better benefit specialty crop producers or fruit and vegetable producers, which is what we have a lot here in Orange County in this region. There's also changes for support for community supported agriculture, for organic agriculture. There's the Farm to Fresh Food Communities Initiative. There's a Healthy Food and Financing Initiative, which was refunded, and there's a specialty crop block grant program, which was maintained, and there's also a new dairy program. And then within the managed report, Congressman Maloney was able to get in language that directs the Secretary of Agriculture to work on the flooding in the Walker River, which is a primary thing obviously that affects us. We've had 7 50-year floods in the Black Dirt since 2005. 3 of those were critical that destroyed our crops. One in 2007 destroyed a lot that was planted early on, and of course in 2011 we lost most of our crop to Irene and Marie afterward. Devastating flooding, can't happen again. I'm about $400,000 in debt to the USDA currently. That's how much I owe them in loans. Personal story, I lost my crop in 2011, couldn't pay my loan back. The only way USDA would restructure my debt was if I farmed again and took out more loans. I was happy because I wanted to farm, my wife was in tears. She can't take it anymore. So that's a little bit about the Farm Bill, a little bit myself. Peter mentioned I've been doing this for free for years. My wife says you can't do it for free anymore. You gotta get paid for this. So I've created a public policy organization called Farm Group. I have business cards in the back. I have both cards for my personal farm card and the Farm Group. Farm Group is a public policy organization that focuses on special crops, fruits and vegetables, helping develop and implement policy that's good for us. I'll mention one thing in a second. I also have a blog, like I said, called muckville.com, which is a humorous take on what happened on the farm. You can follow me on Twitter. And I also recently, a year ago, I wrote a memoir detailing my experiences working on policy, working on the farm. And I've just recently signed a literary agent who's in the process of now getting me a publisher and getting it sold. So that's some of the things I worked on. I'll mention briefly what the Farm Group is doing. One of the things I've come up with is a policy called Farm to Food Bank. And what it would do is, and right now I've pitched this to Senator Gillibrand's office, they've talked to the USDA and have had meetings about this. What this program would do, it would try and strengthen the ties between the nutrition title and the rest of the Farm Bill. And there's nothing in the nutrition title that affects wholesale farmers like myself. What Farm to Food Bank does is, it would be a block grant program that go to the states, doled out based on the amount of food insecure people in each state to their various departments of agriculture. They would then give that money to various food recovery, food banks, food pantries for the direct purchase from farmers, wholesale farmers, fruits and vegetable farmers, their product that would then go to those food banks. And the great thing about it is it's a huge market because there's a lot of food insecure people in this country that we can't currently penetrate. That's both vertically and horizontally integrated. It's integrated on one level. All these various food banks are interconnected with each other through America's Second Harvest. And then it's also from top down through America's Second Harvest, they're all connected as well. So it's a market that we could get fresh fruits and vegetables. And it's good public policy because obviously the more fresh fruits and vegetables people eat, the healthier they are, the less you're paying later on in food care or in the health system for various health-related problems. So that's a quick thing of Farm Bill stuff. Here to answer questions if you have any questions for how long I have. I'd rather do that. Or I can talk about more about some of the policies and stuff.
Chris, I have a question about the onions that you grow. Where do they go? Can we find them at one of the local stores? Or?
Most of the onions we sell to local repackers who then sell to grocery store chains. Most of us sell in 50-pound bags that goes to repackers. Repackers put it in 2 3-pound bags, and they go up and down the eastern seaboard primarily. We supply roughly 6% of the nation's storage onion supply. And anywhere from Maine down to Florida primarily. We can't penetrate west, so we do have much of the eastern seaboard. Of course, 60% of the population lives on the eastern seaboard versus on the west coast. Questions?
Mary?
Oh, go ahead.
I'm just wondering if there are some new farmers. I know often it's generational, but are there some new farmers coming into our area?
There's within the Farm Bill, there's actually more financing to help out young farmers and ranchers get financing, credit and financing. There are a few. There are some. It's very funny you mention that because when I was at the hearing that I testified at, Secretary Vilsack had an idea to create 100,000 new farmers. And I kind of actually, my wife and I kind of laughed out loud, because we kind of viewed it as a harebrained scheme. And I didn't want to laugh in public there, because I had visions of him coming to my farm one day. But when we testified for the senators, they asked us what we thought of it, the four of us. And my comment was, and I'm very proud of this, you know, I said, instead of trying to create new farmers, what we should do is address the system that exists now so that farming becomes more profitable for the people that are in it, and then their children will stay in it. And I said, when I say more profitable, I don't want to become Elmer J. Fudd millionaire and own a mansion and a yacht. I would just like to make a living. So I was very proud of the congressional record. I got a Bugs Bunny quote. And if you go in there, it's on my blog, it's in there. But the point is, I agree with the notion of getting more credit for young farmers outside, but farming is so expensive and so, as far as the implements and the technology and the knowledge, what they should be doing is addressing why is it when I sell my onions, I'm getting roughly 20% of the retail dollar, and my price hasn't changed for the most part that I receive for 30 years. The average price I receive for a bag of onions for the most part is the same that we got back in the 1980s. And if they address that, then, you know, then my kids are more likely to stay in it versus going into engineering or whatever they want to do. I don't know what my sixth grader wants to do. He wants to play Pokemon. There's a prayer that. Any questions?
Yeah. You worked closely on the ag bill. Are you happy with the way it came out of the sausage grinder?
I mean, there's some aspects I do like. I wish that one of the things again, when I testified on crop insurance. And there's some aspects of the Crop Act are good, but there's some aspects I wish it would have contained as well. We also had a program that didn't make it this time. My wife and I created called the Conservation on Muck Soils program. And basically the way the program would work was you put grass in the ditch banks, you put cover crop out in the spring and fall, and you would get a payment similar to what's exists now with the Conservation Reserve Program, but you're actually growing the crop. It seems we should be encouraging more programs that encourage us to grow and conserve versus setting land aside and paying for that. And Congressman Hall, when he was in the last Farm Bill, he actually got that, it's called the COMS program, he got it in the House version of the Farm Bill. And what happened was it didn't stay in, it wasn't in the Senate version, and Senator Harkin, who's a fellow Democrat, removed it because he felt it threatened his conservation programs. This time around, Senator Gillibrand tried to champion it, but unfortunately this simply wasn't enough support to back it. I'm disappointed that wasn't in. The Farmer Food Pantry idea came late, so I understand that. But there are aspects of it that are good. They made some changes to the credit title that enables us to get farm ownership, farm operating loans a little better, and maintain some eligibility. So that's a little bit better. Yes, as far as comparing it to the Farm Bill, say 96 or 2002, it's much better. It really starts to focus a little bit more on fruits and vegetables. That's one misnomer. People see, actually if you go to my YouTube channel, there's a video on I have where my wife called in the C-SPAN back in 2001. It was dealing with the 2002 Farm Bill. And the topic was the Farm Bill. And I recorded it, I put it on YouTube, uploaded it. And the point my wife made is, when people see the Farm Bill and ag programs, they automatically assume, oh, farmers are all getting payments. What people understand is the bulk of the programs that exist are for corn, wheat, cotton, rice, and oilseeds. And there's very little that actually benefits fruits and vegetables. And that's the public says, oh, you farmers are getting help. No, in most cases, there's very little programs that exist for us. So that needs to change too, obviously.
Yeah. What provisions are in the bill that help CSAs and also organic farms?
Let's look it up. For the CSAs, there's a Community Supported Agriculture Promotion Act, and what that does is establish a competitive grant program to reward federal funds to nonprofit organizations, extension services, and state and local government agencies to provide grower support, ranging from marketing and business assistance to crop development to new or current CSA farmers, as well as assist in development of innovative delivery and distribution programs. So that's one of them. And the other one you asked was about the
Organic specifically?
organic. And within organic, there's also now, they've established a new Farm Bill research and marketing orders that would help farmers become organic certified and then helping them to sell their crops in high value markets. And it's similar to the Organic Agriculture Research and Extension Initiative, and that's a new program that's in there as well.
I had a question about also getting the food to market. But I know that's a big issue, especially for small farmers, that there's a big New York City market, and are there some things going on now that are?
What I mentioned about the CSA is one. There's also within the ag, got in the House side, that got included in the final bill is the Farmers Market and Local Food Promotion Program, which would be grants to help producers, direct them to consumer market opportunities. And there's also the Healthy Food Financing Initiative, which was redone, which was Senator Gillibrand's, which is to help where there's food deserts. It's to give financing, competitive grants, and assistance to get either farmers markets or grocery stores or whatever in areas that are identified and targeted as food deserts. And that was a creation of Senator Gillibrand. Any questions?
So with all the hardships that you undergo as a farmer, what keeps you going?
That comes out. Why are you doing this for? Well, one thing, I'm branching out into other stuff. Bottom line, I like driving tractors and trucks. When I had a job for a while in Wisconsin, when we first married, I worked at a pharmaceutical company, and I would spend my lunch hours looking outside at the guys mowing the lawn, saying, I wish I was out there. And there's a certain, it's funny, there's a certain aspect of farming. It's like, my degree was in broadcasting film, so I wanted to be a screenwriter. But farming is a lot like a movie or a television show. You have the beginning, which is when you plant, you have the rising action, which is the growing season, then you have the season-ending finale, which is harvest, and then you get to start a whole new season again. So in a way, it's kind of like that. But I like to drive tractors, trucks. I like the challenge of it, try and get things to grow. It's fun. It's fun. It's actually fun to drive stuff. I tell you an inside story regarding, it's in my memoir, about, again, the point of like the programs that only benefit from the cotton and rice. My wife and I were responsible for getting a $10 million earmark a few years ago. You may have heard about it. It was part of the 2002 Farm Bill. It went to only the onion growers of Orange County. It was something my wife and I worked on for 6 years, and Ben got that in that 2002 Farm Bill. We had a bunch of meetings, emails, I can't tell you the calls, Capitol Hill. One meeting we had in particular was fascinating. Eve and I, my wife Eve and I, everything I do is with my wife Eve. She's a co-partner, and I testified before the Ag Committee. I said that I shouldn't be here alone. My wife's in the audience, but she should be up here with me because we did everything together. But we had a meeting one time, and we had a meeting with a guy named Hank Moore, who at the time was the Chief of Staff of the House Ag Appropriations Subcommittee on the majority side. And it was him, Hank, my wife and I, and a guy named Todd Berger, who was Ben Gilman's legislative director. And I was mentioning again, it was right before we got the $10 million, I was saying how unfair the Farm Bill is and how unfair ag programs are. They don't really cover vegetables and fruits, even though we account for 40% of domestic sales versus 20% of the program crops. And this guy, Hank Moore, looked at me and he said, why is that? Why these programs only are for those guys, not for you? And I kind of burst out laughing. And I said, well, it goes back to the New Deal and the Ag, what's called the Parity Act, the Ag Adjustment Act, and those are the crops primarily going. And I gave him a 2-minute primer on the history of the Farm Bill. And when we left the meeting, I said, as we left afterward, the first thing I said to Todd was that guy yanking my chain? He's the Chief of Staff for the Ag Appropriations Subcommittee. He doesn't know? And Todd's response was, he says, you know more about ag policy than he does. He just writes the checks. He has no clue. There's no institutional memory. And that, to this day, blows my mind. I thought he was yanking my chain. I thought he was kidding. Why is it you guys always? Thank you very much, and feel free to contact me if you have any questions.